Chapter 18. Jiggery Pokery. Day trips were something of a rarity at Jack's school. After a boy had slid down the Tyrannosaurus Rex skeleton at the Natural History Museum on his bottom, the headmaster had banned all trips until further notice. It was only one of a long list of misdeeds committed by pupils at Jack's school over the years. Most had now entered into school legend. At London Zoo, a girl leaped over a wall at the penguin enclosure. She thought that by tugging her pullover over her head and waddling and catching a fish in her mouth, she could pass herself off as a penguin. A trip to a Doctor Who exhibition ended in chaos when a number of boys stole Cybermen, Sontaran and Dalek costumes and pretended they were an alien invasion of Earth. One Christmas on a school outing to see the local pantomime, two pupils stole the pantomime horse costume, and they were only found when several months later they attempted to enter the Grand National. An excursion to an ancient fort took an unfortunate turn when the teacher was fired out of a cannon. He was later found up a tree 2 miles away. At an outing to HMS Victory, a group of boys pulled up the anchor and set sail. They hoisted a skull and crossbones flag and declared that they were pirates. After several months at sea, the boys were apprehended by a Royal Navy aircraft carrier. A trip to a local farm ended in disaster when the geography teacher was herded into a sheep dip and all his hair was sheared off. It was slightly preferable to the previous year, when pupils had attached him to the milking machine. At the National Gallery, a boy scrawled "Gaz was here" with a black marker pen on a priceless Turner masterpiece. At first he denied it, before being reminded that he was the only boy in the school called Gaz. An outing to the Bank of England ended in disgrace for the school when they realised £1 million had gone missing. The maths teacher, Mr. Filch, is still in prison for his role in the robbery. On a visit to a local fire station, the fire chief regretted letting the children loose on one of the hoses. A teacher was propelled into the air by the spray and kept up there for over an hour until the water ran out. The school had been banned from Madame Tussauds Waxworks in London after a couple of boys made off with a replica of Margaret Thatcher. The next day they wheeled the waxwork around the school on a skateboard, pretending the Prime Minister was on a visit. Despite this long list of offences, Miss Verity petitioned the headmaster to lift the ban. Eventually she was granted permission to take her history class on a visit to the Imperial War Museum in London. Miss Verity was well known for being the strictest teacher in the school, and the headmaster was sure there would be no funny business on her watch. Jack had been so distracted by his grandfather being missing, he had all but forgotten about the trip. First thing in the morning, and with his head elsewhere, the boy boarded the coach. Needless to say, before the coach had even left the playground, all the kids had scoffed the entire contents of their packed lunchboxes. The greedy little tykes. Returning to the Imperial War Museum was bittersweet for the boy. Jack had visited it so many times before with Grandpa. It was like a second home to them. Of course, this was when his grandfather still knew he was his grandfather. As the coach pulled up outside, Jack recognised the museum at once. It was an impressive building, with Roman-style columns at the front, a green dome on the roof, and 2 naval cannon pointing proudly aloft in the courtyard. The trip was nearly cancelled before anyone had even got off the coach. 2 boys in the back seat had pushed their bottoms against the windows to moon some elderly Japanese tourists, and Miss Verity gave them both life sentences in detention. She made a speech to all the children on the coach. "Now listen up," she shouted over the excited hum. The children were buzzing, having wolfed down all the cakes and chocolate bars in their lunchboxes. They were far too hyper to be quiet. I said, "Listen up," she bellowed, and there was silence. "Every single one of you will need to be on your best behaviour today. You're all a walking advertisement for the school. and if there is even a hint of jiggery-pokery, monkey business or shenanigans of any kind, we are all getting straight back on the coach. Like all the other children, Jack had no idea what jiggery-pokery meant exactly, but he imagined it might include sliding down a priceless dinosaur skeleton on your bottom. Now here are your worksheets, announced Miss Verity, handing out bundles of A4 paper. There was an audible groan from all the kids who were looking forward to the day trip, being something of a doss. There's even a sheet for you, she said as she handed one to the baffled-looking coach driver. What I am looking for today are the three F's. Facts, facts, facts. Jack scanned his worksheet. There were hundreds of questions, all dealing with boring historical details, dates, names, places. Jack and his classmates were going to have no time to marvel at the exhibits. Instead, they'd have to spend their entire time reading every sign on every wall, jotting down every last fact. The Imperial War Museum was full from floor to ceiling with tanks, weaponry and uniforms, all from past and present. Jack's favourite part of the museum was the great room, where planes hung from the ceiling, and it inspired him to display his model aeroplanes in his bedroom in much the same way. The museum had the most remarkable collection of fighter planes. There was a World War I biplane, the Sopwith Camel, a Luftwaffe Focke-Wulf and an American Mustang. However, pride of place was given to the most legendary fighter plane of them all, the Spitfire. On seeing her again, Jack's heart began to sing. Somehow she made the boy feel close to his grandpa again. Chapter 19. Bird of Prey. Most of the kids from Jack's school wanted to race through the Imperial War Museum as fast as they could go. The plan was to head straight for the gift shop and spend their pocket money on something completely unrelated to the exhibits, like a smelly rubber in the shape of an ice cream, or that they could sniff all the way home. All Jack wanted to do was stare at the Spitfire. The machine always had this pull on him. Today, that pull seemed stronger than ever. The Spitfire had been built to bring death and destruction, but she was also a thing of great beauty. Seeing her again, Jack understood why this particular fighter plane above all others had entered into legend. If only he could take to the air. Up, up and away, he muttered to himself. It seemed a shame that this great warbird was gathering dust in a museum when she should be zooming through the sky. From every angle the Spitfire looked stunning. Looking at her now from below, Jack noticed how her underneath was as smooth and pale as the underside of a killer whale. The wings appeared strong and powerful, like those of a bird of prey. Jack's most favourite part of all was the wooden propeller sat on the nose of the plane. It looked more like a military moustache. It was as if the Spitfire wasn't a machine at all, but a person. In this tall display room, where the flights of steps that led to the raised walkway, there were flights of steps that led to a raised walkway. This gave visitors a better look at all the different planes dangling from the ceiling. But when Jack went up there to study the Spitfire, he noticed something very curious. The perspex bubble that sat atop the Spitfire cockpit had steamed up. There had to be something heating it from inside. Yet more curious was the sound coming from the cockpit. It was the sound of snoring. Zzz, zzz, zzz. Someone must be fast asleep in the Spitfire.